Hi, this is Miss Goodale, and today I'm talking about fractions, converting fractions and decimals to percents. There's a few different ways that you could convert a fraction into a percent. The main two that I'm going to focus on today are to make them as an amount out of 100 or to convert to a decimal and then convert to a percent. So the first thing that I want to do is to talk about converting a decimal to a percent because that is probably the simplest and we will build on it to do the fractions. So just like converting a percent to a decimal was just as simple as moving the decimal over, converting from a decimal to a percent is the same way. You just move the decimal the other direction. One example is if I have 35, let's make it 35 hundredths. Now, when we started out with the decimal, the percent, we moved the decimal to the left. This time we're moving the decimal to the right. We're making it a larger number. So 35 hundredths is equal to 35%. If I have 2 and 34 hundredths, if I move that decimal twice to the right, that's 234%. And let's start out with a number in the thousandths. This time I move it twice to the right still. And my decimal actually didn't go after the number, it went before the number. So it is 0.5%. So those are pretty simple examples of converting from a percent to a decimal to a percent, which brings me to the first method that I could use to convert a fraction to a percent. Now, if you recall from earlier, we can convert a fraction to a decimal using division. So that's what we are going to do using this method, is we are going to convert our fraction to a decimal, then convert that decimal to a percent. So that's why it's important that we did this first step before we talked about using this method. So 3/4, if I wanted to make that into a decimal, I would divide the top number by the bottom number. The top number goes on the inside, the bottom number goes on the outside. And remember, I can put a decimal and as many zeros after a whole number as I want. So 4 does not go into 3, but 4 will go into 30, and it will go into 30 7 times, which is 28. And if I subtract, I'll show you the borrowing 2. I get 2 left over. I can put another 0 here, bring it down, and 4 actually goes into 20 evenly, which is 5. 4 times 5 is 20. I subtract and I get 0. Sometimes they won't come out even, and you may have a lot of numbers here. A lot of times the book will make them come out evenly just so that you don't have to do as much division. So now we have 3/4 is 75 hundredths. And the next step is as simple as what we did above. You just move the decimal to the right twice. That makes this 75%. Now I'm going to show you a different way to do that same problem, converting the fraction to a percent using an equivalent ratio. Now this doesn't always work with as easily. This works better if you have a number that can easily be divided into 100 or can evenly go into 100. So 4 can go into 100 evenly. If I take 4 times 25, then that will go into 100, which brings me to a more convenient way to convert to a percent. So if I do 4 times 25, that means I have to do the same thing to the top. And I take 3 times 25, which is 75. 3/4 is 75 cents. So either way, I get 75 over 100. Then I know, okay, percent is an amount out of 100. The amount is 75, which is 75%. So either of those methods will work. This one only, it can work for some. Sometimes you may have to multiply by decimals if you use this method, but I would stick more with the method, this first method, unless you have something that easily goes into 100. Let me give you another example that would easily go into 100. So if we have 34 and 50, 34 and 50, 50 goes into 100 by multiplying it by 2. So that's one that I can easily make into a percent using this method. So I just multiply the top number times 2 since I multiplied 50 times 2. So 34 times 2 is 68. And then I just have my top number is the number that equals my percent. And if I did the reverse, if I did this the other way, I could do 34 divided by 50. And I would want to put my decimal because 50 doesn't go into 34, but it will go into 340. And it'll go into there 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. 0, 4. I can add a 0. 50 goes into 400 8 times. 0 times 8 is 0. 8 times 5 is 40. And then I subtract. And I get 0.68. Ooh, and I realized that I messed up here. 68%, not 75%. 0.68. That means I move my decimal to the right twice. And that makes that 68%. So I should get the same answer regardless of which method I use. But like I said, this method is probably going to work easiest. If you have a number like 2, 5, 4, 25, 20, those values, you could use this method pretty easily. But most of them you're going to want to use division. That was kind of a quick run through of how to do those. I hope that helps you. And let me know if you have any other questions. Thank you.